My mom called me and she goes, your father and I, we've been praying for you and we really hope that you find a nice girl. We're believing that you're going to find a nice girl. And, I just had to tell you, you have this thing where you really love these exotic women. But I have to tell you, Andrea, these exotic women tend to come with exotic problems. In my past relationship, what led up to the toxicity explosion, so to speak, that ended the relationship, as many do, were no boundaries.
Yeah.
No boundaries.
Zero boundaries, which is
Zero
super
boundaries. Very unhealthy, and it's one of the leading causes of toxicity in a relationship.
Yeah.
So what is the victim triangle?
I'll do the first one, which is the bottom left of the corner for those that are going to see the victim triangle. And that's the rescuer. These are people that spend their entire life helping the world, help everyone else but themselves. It's like they're always putting themselves last.
The problem also with rescuing is when you're spending so much time with other people, pouring, and you have an empty cup, you will always be depleted.
You will be depleted.
And that's when you move to the victim, right?
Okay. So now we've transitioned into the victim because we're depleted.
Yeah.
So if you're a victim and you're constantly blaming other people and externalizing the problems onto everyone else, now you've transitioned into the persecutor, right?
Now you start to persecute. Yeah.
So it's an addiction.
It is an addiction.
It is definitely an addiction.
So how can someone go about setting a healthy boundary, because you could set one, but what I've found oftentimes is people will set a boundary, not uphold it, and now they look even weaker.
What's up, fam? My name's Andrew Loringer, and this is the Planted Moves podcast. Planted Moves was created for those looking to better themselves and become their greatest version by discerning clear vision, pursuing higher purpose, and staying grounded in faith on the road to success. Welcome to Planted Moves.
Welcome, everyone, to Planted Moves. I'm so excited to be joined today by my good friends and family, Dania and Monica, from Awakening of the Heart, from Tapestry of the Heart, the center in Homestead. We have had an incredible journey so far, and we're only halfway through. Well, a little bit over halfway at this point. The reason that this is even a thing is because of your input and your help through my healing process. And, when I met you, Dania, I was in like a very, very broken place. It's just so interesting to see how like some of the most beautiful things can come out of some of the most broken places.
Yes.
And how like everything that we've been through is really happened for us, not to us, so that it could lead us into the next venture or the next endeavor of our existence.
Exactly. You could take life and learn from it, or you can become a victim.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'd love to first of all introduce each of yourselves, and then I kind of want to go into like a little bit of a story about how I found the center.
Okay.
And then maybe we could go over a couple of things to help people so that they get a little bit of value out of this session. And I definitely don't think we can cover everything today, so we're going to have to do another one for sure. So awesome.
It's too much.
Well, we'll start with you, Dania.
Okay. So my name is Dania, Alen, and I am co-founder of Tapestry of the Heart. I met Drew about 2 years ago, was it? A little over a year ago. And this is not the same person that walked into my office. He's done incredible work. He's still doing an incredible work. And many beautiful things happen at the center and at the office.
A lot of healing takes place.
A lot of healing, beautiful healing.
Yeah.
So I am Monica Viamonte. I am also co-founder of Tapestry of the Heart, and I'm so happy to be here, Drew. Thank you for creating this space for us, and
Absolutely.
it has been an honor to witness your transformation, your growth.
Thank you.
Amazing man you are. So
Thank you.
thank you for creating this space for us to talk about what we have done and what we have been creating.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can say that my journey has been tremendously impacted by the center, and obviously the center wouldn't exist without you two. So I'm very grateful for your impact in my life and for the center as a whole, just like everything that you've created. So I think, one of the things I would like to start with was when I first found the center, it was because of a place in my life where I was at that moment, like tremendously broken. I had just gotten out of a very toxic relationship. She was in jail. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I was really broken because everything that I felt like we had built ended in a heartbeat. And, I was kind of lost, and I was still talking to women and doing all these different things. And one of the women that I was talking to led me to the center. And I whether or not she could just see like this guy's got some messed up stuff going on, but regardless of what happened, she brought me to the center for the vision board party.
Yes.
And it was at that vision board party that I really was like, I felt the energy in the place. And I was like, wow, there's something just special about this. I want to find out more. I want to be a part of it.
Yes.
And through my journey, I ended up seeing you, Dania, for like one-on-one therapy and consulting and coaching. And we did a lot of work, but then like the step further was to go to letting go, which we'll touch base on. And you actually have one of those coming up.
Yes.
So
we actually have 2 of those coming up.
2 of those
in August.
Okay.
And this is a beautiful weekend, transformational weekend, where you get to let go of whatever it is that is no longer serving you.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing that always, at least for myself, and I tell the clients in the groups and everything, in order for you to really transform and really, you got to know who you are.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people say like, oh my God, I have all these voices in my head and I don't know what to do with this. And they don't even have a relationship with themselves. So those voices are parts of you. So if you don't really dig inside and learn about them and have a relationship with them, like you would just go through life with like survival mode.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we could go into an entire episode or 2 or 3 episodes about that topic alone, because I mean, going into shadow work, it took us what 12 months of therapy and 7 months at the center to even touch on shadows, and it happened to be one of the most impactful parts, in my opinion, because we have so many shadows, and these are all like basically little children, who were impacted by some certain event within our lives. And if we don't understand them and get to know them, they'll come out without us even knowing, and they'll take control.
Take full control. And you see that a lot when people get angry.
Yeah.
And when people get triggered, immediately one of those shadows takes over. And so that's a good topic for another day.
Yeah, that could definitely take
a little complex. But anyway, just to also understand, a lot of people have a little sometimes resistance about healing the past, or why bring up the past. And if you don't heal the past takes over.
I was like that too. I didn't want to talk about the past.
Exactly.
I was like, let's just bury it deep away.
Yes.
Because if it's deep and buried, then I don't have to think about it.
Yes.
But the problem is that your subconscious still recognizes it, and it comes out every time it's triggered.
Keeps repeating.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Keeps repeating what you have learned.
Yeah. And the past has so many gifts.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a huge gift.
And there's a lot of people that are like dating. I've heard the saying where they're like, I keep dating the same person over and over again in a different phase.
Yes. Or I keep having the same experiences over and over again with different people.
Yeah.
And that's because you haven't learned your lesson. And if you don't learn your lesson, the same experiences, different faces, is going to continue to appear.
Yeah, no, and one thing that it's important, because it's not in the cognitive mind. For me, for us at least, what we teach, going back to the past, like you said, it is in the subconscious mind, because the rational mind carries only 10%. So you can try to figure things out in your mind, or read books and talk and talk and talk, and at that level, very little can really can change.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people, they do at that level and they keep attracting the same, because they're not really changing.
Well, I think that's one of the downfalls of talk therapy.
Yes.
Because the type of therapy that we do it's some type of subconscious. How do you describe it?
It is subconscious.
It's all subconscious.
The subconscious type of hypnotherapy, so to speak.
Heart-centered hypnotherapy.
Heart-centered hypnotherapy is how you describe it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because before I had been seeing talk therapists where you just go and talk about your stuff, and they listen and they regurgitate, and it doesn't really ever end up in true healing. I mean, it can help to get things off of your chest, but if you're not doing the work, which comes from the heart-centered hypnotherapy,
And I do believe that all therapy helps, but when it comes to deep emotional work, when you go to a one-on-one like talk therapy, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a wound. Dress it up, you clean it, but the pus is still there. And so when you go into the subconscious, that's where the pus is. We go in there and remove it in a loving, gentle way. That's why it's called heart-centered hypnotherapy. It doesn't have to be so painful or so traumatic.
Yeah.
And also that when you even think of, I can tell, like, Drew will go to the mirror 10 times a day, 50 times a day, and say I'm this successful man and I'm handsome and I'm all the good things, which is awesome because it's positive. It's not saying it's bad, but if inside of you, though, there is a little boy that had learned exactly the opposite, and it feels the opposite, feels not good enough, feels that it's failing in life. That's the one that will attract situations and people to continue to vibrate and behave at the same way. So yeah, the power of the mind, but has a limited to it.
So the first step would be to heal the little boy or little girl, right? To go into the subconscious and figure out why they believe a certain thing, whether it's I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure.
Why they behave a certain way. Very important.
Because there's the behavior and then there's the belief.
Exactly.
Right? And so you go in and you attack the belief, you rewire the behavior, and then you can go into the mirror and you can talk your affirmations, because now you've gotten to the root of the problem, fixed it, healed it, and now you can rewire the subconscious.
Exactly. And it's constant because you're also always helping that little boy, talking to him, taking him from that dark place to a better place, to where you are right now, to your present, right? And that's really where it starts transforming.
That's the deep healing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think, these are all obviously very high-level topics or concepts for a lot of people. And what I'd like to do is kind of like break down what's one specific thing that someone could hear today and they could say, okay, I can understand that topic and it can probably resonate with them in their daily life.
Right.
And I think for me, one of those might be, obviously shadows is huge. We don't have time for shadows. So that's going to take,
Yes,
that's a whole episode and a half. But I think the victim triangle is huge. So would one of you mind explaining what the victim triangle is?
Yeah, and the victim triangle has a few names. One of them is the victim triangle. The other one is a drama triangle. And it's
our codependence triangle.
or codependent.
Or the codependent triangle. And that's where I was when I met you guys. I was a heavy codependent.
Yes.
And so it's really interesting because in my relationships and in my life, I had kept attracting narcissists.
Yes.
And I think what happens is most codependents, they attract narcissists into their lives and they don't understand why. Every person I date's a narcissist. They're always doing this to me. They're always doing that to me. I keep getting myself into these situations of codependency, and it all goes back to the triangle.
All goes back to your childhood.
To the childhood.
Your childhood.
And we learned those roles, or the three corners, very early. And nobody taught us. It's not like, oh, this is how you become a victim or a rescuer. No, you just observing, just taking notes subconsciously, taking notes, learn by the dynamics of your family of origin, how to even repeat that in your adult life.
So what is the victim triangle?
So
yeah, so we can talk about the corners. I think that's
Yeah, and I think what we'll do is we'll put something up on the screen for people so they can see the victim triangle as you're describing it.
That's perfect. So I'll do the first one, which is the bottom left of the corner for those that are going to see the victim triangle. And that's the rescuer. These are people that spend their entire life helping the world, help everyone else but themselves. It's like they're always putting themselves last. They run and open doors without people asking for them to open the door. They have friends that they are always helping. And they do this not to focus their attention on them, not to have to deal with whatever it is that they're feeling. And so they spend their whole life rescuing others.
But perhaps not intentionally.
No, and that's what I like. The thing is, like, as long as you're fixing people's problems, as long as you are distracted with people's drama, you don't have to deal with yours. Right. It is subconscious a way to distract yourself, like Dania said, from your own things, because then you're too preoccupied and too busy dealing with so many things that you don't even look at yourself.
Wow.
The noise inside is big, but it gets quieter as I am dealing with other people. It's a lot of noise to deal with, but it's not my own.
Yeah, and
that's what the rescuer does.
Yeah.
But the problem also with rescuing is when you're spending so much time with other people, pouring, and you have an empty cup, you will always be depleted.
You will be depleted.
And that's when you move to the victim, right?
Okay. So now we've transitioned into the victim because we're depleted.
Yes.
Because you spend so much energy, so much time, and you start feeling like, oh my God, only why only me? Why do I always give so much. Why don't I get in return? And it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. I'm like, this all poor me feeling starts, this hopeless and helpless. Like I'm alone really in the world because I'm only the one doing everything.
Wow.
So that's when the victim kicks in. And it's a very paralyzing energy and feeling because you feel like, okay, what do I do here? I don't even know how to move from here.
Yeah. What is the purpose of life?
And so the victim believes that everything is happening to them.
Oh,
right.
Sure.
And they're it's not really their responsibility as everybody else's. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm late. Oh, it's traffic's fault, is my partner's fault. It's everybody else's fault but your own.
Wow.
Yeah. That victim is always pointing to somebody. When you point to someone, one finger is pointing to someone, the three others is pointing to yourself. But you don't want to see that because at that level, you're just really pointing to blame other people and make them responsible for who you are.
Yeah.
So if you're a victim and you're constantly blaming other people and externalizing the problems onto everyone else, now you've transitioned into the persecutor, right?
Now you start to persecute.
So the persecutor.
But there's a like for me there's a shift on that you move to the persecutors, which is when you go back to the rescue a little bit. When you rescue, even if you go, you say like, oh, I'm doing with my heart. I'm doing from the good of my heart, and because I'm not selfish, I love to help people. There is subconscious expectations. Okay, especially so let's say if you were helping so much people and in giving advices, you are subconsciously expecting that they do what you are advising them to do. So there is a shift to the persecutors when people don't respond the way you expected, or if they don't give at the same level that you gave, that's when you to the persecution.
And the persecutor has another name also, which is a judge, right? Because persecutors judge. And it doesn't have to be just verbal. Just giving someone a silent treatment is persecuting.
Wow.
Right? So you don't do what I want you to do or what I gave you advice on, so I'm not going to speak to you for a week.
Wow.
And it's interesting because after a week you don't speak to this person because you're so angry, then you start to think, well, my friend, they're such good friends and it was just a one-time thing. And then you start calling them again and here you again, around again the circle.
Wow.
Go back to the rescuer.
And it's amazing how if you just notice the different energy, the different behavior, because the rescuer begins with all this full force of helping and the goodness and everything. And then all of a sudden it's like only me, the victim paralyzes and like only me. And then when you get angry, the persecutor, the judge is angry.
Yes.
Like even though it's a silent treatment, you are angry. And you're like, oh my God, these people, they don't do what I tell them to do, or, they don't, when I need help, they don't help me. It's always this, the motive is is higher. But then you go back to the rescue because you ended up missing that cycle. Like, let me do this again. Let's go into this.
So it's an addiction.
It is an addiction.
It is definitely an addiction. And we are predominantly more one than the other. When I first started to learn about the victim triangle, I recognized how I would step into the triangle more through the rescuer than any of the other two. But once you're in there, you're all of them. And it's called the victim triangle because every corner has victim energy. You're not really taking responsibility and there are no clear boundaries.
Wow.
Very unhealthy way of living. And it's like a game that we play where everyone loses. There are zero winners.
And there's also, the victim triangle not only has to apply to external relationships, but one of the things that you mentioned in the center that was impactful is you could actually be participating in the victim triangle with yourself.
Oh, for sure.
All day.
You don't
All
need
day.
anyone to do this.
All day.
You can do it.
It's all in your brain.
Think of like when you decide to to go on a diet, right? And you're like so full of energy, and I'm gonna do anything. I'm just gonna eat healthy and whatever. And you just prepare all this preparation. You plan for it, and then you're so. And then all of a sudden, then you had like a very, very stressful day, and you get home like super stressful, and you're like, oh my God, I feel so tired and exhausted. Oh, poor me. I really deserve to have some cookies tonight or a glass of wine. And then you go and you rescue yourself, and then you do that. And then the next thing you're like persecuting yourself.
yourself.
Like, why did I do this? How stupid I am to do this again. And you just, It's just drama
Wow.
all the time. The triangle is pure drama, chaos.
And it's
There's
caused
a lot of people that thrive in this
True.
environment
Yes.
because it's their addictive nature. Miami is so dramatic. I can only imagine how many people will resonate with this message here.
the victim triangle, it's definitely drama.
Yeah.
But like we had previously said, there's so much victim energy in each corner. And when you are in one of the corners, let's say I'm a rescuer, I'm going to attract all the victims and persecutors because I need them to play those roles.
Wow.
If I'm a victim, I'm going to attract, the other two. And if I'm a persecutor, I'm going to attract the rescuers and the victims. That's just the way it works.
Wow.
It's a game.
It is a gameplay. Yeah, and it's interesting, like with the relationships also, how with one relationship I can start as a rescuer and the person is a victim. Let's say I'm trying to fix all the problems and everything, and then all of a sudden, if the person starts ignoring me, then I become the victim,
Wow.
and that person become the persecution. So it changes. The corner changes as the relationship goes.
But essentially, it's a continuation of a toxic cycle,
Yeah, sure.
right? And
It's a familiar cycle.
it's a familiar cycle. So a lot of this, all of it really goes back to childhood, right?
All of it.
So you may have grown up in a environment where this cycle was happening and nobody was aware of it.
Oh, for sure.
And so this is something that is a common theme to you moving forward because you're perpetuating a cycle that you became accustomed to and familiar with through your childhood experience.
And even in the womb.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially in the womb.
Yeah, because let's imagine that a mother in the pregnancy that has a very stressful pregnancy or a very abusive relationship with the husband, whatever it is, there's a lot of drama going on and a lot of stress. So the baby at the time feeling all this stress, because remember, there's no boundary between the mother and the baby when the baby's in the womb. So everything the mother is experiencing, the baby experiences. So all this stress that the mother is going is being given absorbing by the baby on their bodies as the body developed. So the baby many times is like, okay, it's not cognitive, but it's like, okay, my mom's a lot of stress right now and I need to stay quiet and not too much and not to be one more burden on her life. And then a lot of times that baby is born with the contract to make the mother happy.
Wow.
Yeah, and that becomes like an imprint in the baby's body. And so the baby's born, and here's the big rescuer,
Wow.
all rescuing all her life and not understanding why.
And they're attracting to themselves persecutors,
Absolutely.
victims.
Absolutely.
If you want to talk a little bit about how rescuers are big manipulators.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yes. Because if I rescue you, then you owe me, right? And if I do something for you, then I'm going to expect for you to do something in return for me later. And that's the difference, which is what I was going to say when I lost my thought. The difference between rescuing and helping is that when you help someone, you help from your heart without expecting anything in return, not even a thank you. Let's say you open the door for someone.
Unconditionally.
Unconditional. You open the door for someone and you're just doing it because you're a nice person. Whether they say thank you or not, that's on them, has nothing to do with you.
Actually, yeah, that's a great point. Let's use that exact example. So you open the door for someone if you're stuck in the triangle, expecting a thank you, and when they don't say thank you, that you get all upset. I can't believe it. They didn't. And now you just spend the next 15, 20 minutes upset because someone didn't say thank you.
And who's upset?
Now you're upset.
You're upset.
Yeah. Because now you victimized yourself because you were rescuing with an expectation.
Exactly.
The other day I was walking and then I was going to cross the street and the car stopped and then I crossed the street and the guy opened the window and said, "You are welcome." I'm like, wow, like that's what it is. Like he was
Like you're supposed to stop for pedestrians.
I just
Pedestrians have the right of way. Like they should be stopping anyways.
And what if she had 1,000 things on her mind?
Yeah.
Like, she did not wake up that day with, to go out and piss someone off. Or let's say someone cuts you off in the street.
Without
I am sure they did not get up that morning to say, you know what, I'm going to go and cut Drew off today.
that was a big thing when I met you. And if you remember, there were several sessions that we had where I was dealing with serious road rage.
Yes.
And I remember several actually. I remember one incident in particular. I literally had just left your office
Yes.
after we had therapy, and I got cut off nasty by somebody on the way home. And I was so pissed. I chased this guy down and I pull up in front of him and I got out of the car and I'm like screaming at the guy. And I'm like, I didn't think about it until afterwards. First of all, I'm persecuting the guy because I felt victimized, right?
Yes.
And then when I got out of the car, I started screaming, and then I felt bad afterwards when I get back in the car and I'm driving back home. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, again, a victim,
Yes.
right? And now I'm like trying to rescue myself.
All by yourself,
Yeah.
right in your brain. And this guy could have had a family emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, God knows, right? So I assure you, he didn't go out that day to say, I'm going to cut Drew off,
Yeah.
right? And so things happen. I mean, in life, I'm sure you've cut somebody off, not meaning to, but.
Well, it's also very selfish to believe that everybody else's behavior has anything to do with you anyways.
Absolutely.
But that's the other thing with the rescuers, because and although sometimes they are super gentle and super they look so peaceful because they're so good and everything, that validation, but they control everything.
Yes.
They're in controllers.
For control.
They have a need because everything has to go exactly the way they think it has to. That's the controlling part of the rescuer.
I heard something. I was actually listening to a gentleman named Tim Fletcher, who has done a lot of work on narcissism and codependency. And so one of the things that he mentioned was narcissists and codependents actually have very much huge similarities in nature. But the narcissist typically, and it's all like based in shame, right?
Oh, for sure.
So this is all shame-based from incidents that happen in childhood, which we talk about in the center all the time. One of them internalizes all the shame,
Yep.
and one of them externalizes all the shame.
Yep.
And so, one of the things that we've spoken about is a codependent can also technically, and people might get offended by this, be considered a co-narcissist, because there are certain similarities in nature where they're doing things with an expectation, which is a form of manipulation.
It is.
Which is why I always believe that the nice guy finishes last. And it's not that you should be a nice guy. You should be a nice man. You should be a good man.
Yes.
Because if you're being a nice guy and you're always trying to rescue and you're always trying to do things for other people, but you're doing it from a place of manipulation because you're expecting something in return,
Exactly.
then you're not really a nice guy.
Right. And a lot of times it's because people think that because the ideal is for you to put yourself first. And, we were taught as children that that's selfish. You put yourself first, that's selfish. And, it isn't. It's called selfless. Now, there is a fine line between selfless and selfish. But I'll give you a good example that I always give in the center, and that's when you go fly on an airplane, they tell you if there's an emergency and the air mask comes down, put it on yourself first, then you can help others. Because if you don't do that, you're going to die.
You can't help other
And you
people.
can't help anyone, right? So that's the same way that it works. So help yourself first so that you can help others. If you feel happy, if you feel fulfilled, that is the best way to help others.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The rescuers, since they don't feel that happy and fulfilled with themselves, they're always searching and giving that power to someone to make me feel the way. Right.
Wow.
That validation that the rescuer subconsciously is always seeking is like, if I do all these good things, I'm going to be acknowledged. I'm going to be validated. I'm such a good person. So that validation always comes from outside, not from inside.
Not from inside, yeah.
It's not from a real place. Somebody else.
And so that's
I'm sorry, you'll never be happy if you're looking for validation outside.
inside. No, it has to come first.
It has to come from within.
And that's from self-love, self-acceptance,
Yes.
and the belief that I am worthy and I'm good enough. Because if I'm worthy and good enough,
Exactly.
then I can give to others from a good place.
And that comes with full understanding of who you are.
Yeah.
And what you are and why you're here on this earth. Why are you here?
But I have a lot of compassion, especially people that are always, because, think of the juggler, the one that is always like trying to juggle so many things. That's what the rescuer does. And they carry so much fear that if they'll continue to do that, things are going to fall apart.
Wow.
The control part comes from like, I have to continue to do this because the belief behind is things will fall apart if it's not done exactly this way.
And
Need for
it
control.
is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Just explaining it is exhausting.
It's very sad.
I love where the topic is going and where the conversation is going. But I think, we did a great job of explaining the victim triangle.
Right.
What's one of the ways that people can get out of the victim triangle? Because a lot of people desire to get out of the triangle, and this could be the first time that they're even becoming aware that there is a victim triangle and that they're even participating in it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, every corner there's a way to get out of there, and it's practice, right? We always say practice makes permanent, because if you practice something different, how we're gonna get out of pattern that you have learned your whole life. But one of the ways is understanding that if you don't create boundaries, healthy boundaries, not saying persecution, thinking the adult part of you knowing, okay, this is not good for me. Maybe I'm not going to do this because I just don't feel that I wanted to do. It's thinking of yourself first and then saying no to somebody like, no, I can't today. I'm sorry, or whatever it is.
Yes.
Healthy boundaries is major way to get out of there because the victim triangle has no boundaries at all.
Wow.
Everybody's doing everything at the same. I mean, it's just massive chaos. And
Yeah.
when you start putting boundaries, you start stepping out of there for sure. So that one of the ways, and it seems so simple, in a way, I think it is, but it is a complex subject for sure. We can talk about healthy boundaries only in another subject, but
We can talk about unhealthy boundaries and healthy boundaries because there's a difference.
well, we're talking like we have as
Oh, and I think that's huge because in my past relationship, what led up to the toxicity explosion, so to speak, that ended the relationship, as many do, were no boundaries.
Yeah.
No boundaries.
Zero boundaries, which is
Zero
super unhealthy.
boundaries. Very unhealthy, and it's one of the leading causes of toxicity in a relationship.
Yeah.
So how can someone go about setting a healthy boundary and then, more importantly, upholding that healthy boundary? Because you could set one, but what I've found oftentimes is people will set a boundary, not uphold it, and now they look even weaker.
Yeah. So, healthy boundaries it could be so simple, right? Number one, you have to understand that you're 100% responsible for what you create. And that means you're also responsible for your feelings. So, if someone makes a gesture that upsets you, let's say someone rolls their eyes, if you tell them, you really piss me off doing that, you're giving away your power. You're not responsible for your feelings there because you're giving them away. You're telling them that they did this to you. But if you say, when you roll your eyes, I feel anger, or I feel triggered, or I feel upset, and I need you not to do that anymore. Beautiful way of setting a boundary. When you said so-and-so to me, I didn't like that. My feelings were hurt, so I need you not to do that again. And just continue to say the boundaries. Sometimes we need to walk away from people if they don't respect our boundaries.
Huge.
Yeah, that is huge.
Well, because the thing is, if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, then they don't respect you. And I think that a boundary is a good way of testing someone.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, I think what a lot of people, especially if they're unfamiliar with setting boundaries or they've never even done it before, one of the things, at least, when I first started setting boundaries, was a fear of if I set the boundary, they'll leave.
Right.
When you decide to practice stepping out of these, there is, you have to be very aware because when you start saying no to people, and no, it's a sentence itself, no.
Yeah.
Right. So when you start saying no, the person that was in the other side of that dance, that was so used with you resolving all the problems, and you start creating that boundary, that person might start guilting, the guilt trip. Persecute. What are you doing now? What's happening to you now? You just
you always let this happen before.
Or the classic one is for start therapy. At least with our clients, I'm sure you also got people say, this is bullshit from your therapist. So this is the work that you're doing. This is all this cult thing that you're doing now. That you're becoming this person that says no to everything. It's amazing that the guilt trip.
Wow.
And then if you don't stand strong.
Well, we've had people leave.
Oh, for sure.
And, I'm assuming that some of that's going on at home.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So it's standing the ground and, working through your feelings and what's happening, hopefully in therapy if you can, or on a group setting, that you can stand up for yourself and then see that this doesn't serve you anymore.
Yeah.
And if the person is right for you, they're going to stick around and they're going to learn to respect your boundaries. And, more important, or just as important, is that when you start to set boundaries, you're actually teaching them how to speak nicely and set boundaries. Because you can get into a fighting match, into a screaming match, or you can just say, when you do that, I get really triggered and I need you to stop.
Yeah.
How nice is that?
It's a dance. Yeah. It's like dancing. Both are dancing with the steps that we know, a tango or a samba or a salsa. They all know that when you step out of it, the other person is like, what step is that? I don't recognize this dance. Hey, come back here. Dance this dance with me, because that one I don't like it.
Wow.
And then they will try to bring you back to the dance. And if you're like, maybe they will learn a new dance with you.
Absolutely.
Or maybe they will leave the dance. I don't know. There's many scenarios that can happen, but stay stuck on an unhealthy, chaotic, toxic dance.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing yourself a huge favor if they do leave.
Absolutely.
Because by setting the boundary, had you not set the boundary, you'd continue to be in this toxic cycle. The
Exactly.
person would have never left if they weren't meant for you. They would have stayed in the cycle with you.
For sure.
And at least by setting the boundary, them not upholding it, and either you telling them to leave or them making the decision to leave, now you've rid yourself of a problem of toxic proportion,
Exactly.
and you can begin to heal on your own, which is quite frankly where most people need to be
Yes.
if they're going through toxicity. I think there's so much power in being alone. And, I had to go through this on my own because I kept bouncing from relationship to relationship to relationship, seeking, like you said, affirmation from other people or fulfillment from other people, validation from other people. And in reality, when I spent enough time alone and I actually did the work, I went to the retreat center and I went to therapy and we went through all of these, processes within the program. I realized that I am enough and I am worthy and I don't need to stand for other people's shit.
Yes. Exactly.
But it can happen on a relationship when there's a toxicity and both are willing
To.
Yes.
to change the dance is beautiful too, because then there's two people willing to.
We've seen that too.
Yes, it all sorts of outcome. It happens, but that's one of the outcomes too. When both people are willing to work on a new dance, and it's so beautiful. It's a healthier dance.
It's huge.
You're learning together.
And it's your birthright. You don't have to live a toxic, unhappy drama life. You don't. It's your birthright to be happy, and to live a healthier life, a healthier existence.
Just think of whoever's listening to us. If you have been raised on a lot of drama at home, with fights or screaming, or a lot of persecution, you will tend to recreate that drama, and that's why sometimes for people like, I don't even know what peace means.
Wow.
Because inside they don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And they're going to be longing for that pattern and for that recapitulation of the.
And when they find it, they might, like I did. Remember, we did sessions on this.
Exactly.
When I found peace, I was bored.
Yeah.
I was so bored because I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not getting into arguments. I'm not getting into fights.
Like something must be
No drama. Something's missing.
That little kid inside of you is like,
what's happening.
what's happening?
Yeah, this is weird.
Like, this is weird. I don't recognize this. Like this reality.
The sirens are,
Run.
and it's crazy because when you grow up in that environment, and I had wonderful parents, right? But even in my childhood, I experienced
course.
drama and
Sure.
toxicity, and so it's like,
It's addictive.
yeah, it's addictive, and so I continued to be in that addiction. However, I would never see any red flags. Right? I was completely oblivious and blind to them. I would get in toxic relationships, stay in toxic relationships. Everybody else around me is like, bro, what the hell are you doing?
Yes.
And then when I finally find peace in a very healthy relationship, red flags and sirens are going crazy because I'm like, this is weird. I don't know what this is.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
And I tell people to get what you've never had. Well, there's a quote. I'm not sure who wrote it, but to get what you've never had, you must do what you've never done.
Yeah.
Right. So I always tell, the young people that come in and they're looking for romance or a partner. And I tell them, look for something you haven't looked before, because if what you've had before hasn't worked for you, then it's time to look for something else.
Well, I'll never forget something you told me. I was like, I've been seeing this girl and she's really cute and everything's cool, but like, she's not really my type. And the first thing you said to me, I'll remember it forever. Look at where your type has gotten you.
Exactly.
Thank God she's not your type.
Exactly.
Because your type is toxic.
And that road is so familiar, and it will crash in the end. It will be painful.
My mom called me and she goes, your father and I, we've been praying for you and we really hope that you find a nice girl. We're believing that you're going to find a nice girl. And, I just had to tell you, you have this thing where you really love these exotic women. But I have to tell you, Andrea, these exotic women tend to come with exotic problems.
That's my favorite right on.
And she was like, I think you should go to church and find a nice man.
And one thing that I would like to address, like, by no means when we do this work, a lot of people get a little really concerned because we're not judging parents or our parents or shaming parents, or none of that is part of our work. It's far from it. We don't bring judgment into it. But it's important to know what happened in your life, what had happened when you were a little kid, and many times we forget. But what they're stored on you, it's so important because then you can put the pieces together.
Right.
And then you say, okay, this is where I come from. This is where I stand right now. and I get to choose where I want to go.
Exactly. It's all
The
awareness.
director of your life, once you're aware of so many things and you're really like willing to change things, you're like, okay, this path brought me here.
Yeah.
Beautiful,
And
beautiful gift.
Be accepting of it.
Yeah.
Accepting all of that, and but okay, now I am the creator, myself, nobody else. And what do I want to create in my life? And it's up to you.
Yeah.
But it's bringing that awareness of your past for sure.
Well, and I think also, and I think this is some, you both have mentioned this, but when you look at the past and look at individuals who played a very impactful role, whether it be positive or negative, as if you were looking at a little child version of themselves.
Yes.
So, what really helped me was when I was growing up, first of all, my dad, fantastic dad, loving, caring, giving, but he also had a very angry side to him that used to come out a lot when I was a child, and that imprinted me and negatively impacted a lot of my relationships moving forward. And so he, when I think about him now, I think of like him as a little child
Exactly.
having a temper tantrum,
That's exactly what he was doing.
and I'm like, and when I think about it in that manner, instead of being angry at him, instead of like hating him for some of the things that he said or some of the things that he did, I look on it with empathy and love and compassion,
Exactly.
because I'm like, wow, he was really like going through something, and this is just a hurt child.
Exactly. And those lessons that he gave you, because they're all lessons, have made you the man you are today.
Exactly. So,
What a beautiful
so Dad, if you're watching, I'm very grateful for you. I love you. Thank you.
and mom.
And Mom, of course. I wouldn't be anywhere without my
They
mother.
did the best they could.
Yeah.
They did the best they could with the tools they had, with the awareness they had. And from now on, we're not a victim of that.
Yeah.
But we hold the responsibility to now change whatever it is that we want to.
So we were 18, like the law says, we're their responsibility. But after 18, it's time for you to figure it out.
Yeah.
Step up and figure it out.
And I think that this is a great step. So, I think part of figuring it out is really gaining a better understanding of yourself, not only where you are now and who you are, but where you've come from, because that honestly defines you. But it doesn't have to define your future. It
Exactly.
defines where you are right now. And so with that being said, I definitely think letting go was super impactful for me.
Letting go weekend. And it's super easy to sign up. You can just go to our website, which is tapestryoftheheart.com. And there's 2 weekends. I think it's the first weekend in August and the last weekend.
Yeah, you can choose whatever is bad.
And
You're free. And after letting go weekend is where like this whole deep, really deep, like starts with called Awakening of the Heart. That's where Drew is right now. And that is an amazing transformational work.
Amazing.
Amazing.
The first couple of months were like very slow, and it was like just, we could do another episode on this, going into shock.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely another one.
Because like as you start bringing up a lot of these things from your past, a lot of people go into shock. And for me, my shock was like I would just go to sleep.
Yes, you would. I would.
I would just knock
Yes, I
out.
would.
And that happened in your office several times. We're doing some type of work and I'm out.
Yeah, I have to get all the ice that's in my refrigerator to wake me up.
And come. And so I think when people are talking about this, they can go into shock, which is what kept happening to me. And there's certain things that they can do to get out of the shock.
I think that should be the next topic that we touch on, because a normal human spends 85% of the day in shock.
Wow.
And there's different types of shock.
That's a huge.
And that's your autonomous nervous system acting autonomic, like with all the past experiences you had, and it's the defense mechanism to not to feel you go into shock, you go into that part of your brain that takes over and perceives things as a threat.
So you're in
It's
fight or
not
flight.
safe anymore. It depends on which one you go, parasympathetic or sympathetic shock. But I guess if you wanna, we can explain a little bit now, or we can more in detail.
No, I think that we could save that for another one, because I mean, if people aren't doing the work, they're not gonna. Well, you said 85% of their day they spend in shock anyways.
Yes.
But it's a good awareness for people for sure.
Yeah. So I think having some awareness of going into shock is huge.
It is.
That happened to me. It still happens. That happened last week.
Last week, we were at a session, and I had to bring out the ice again.
And I'm 7 months into this. I mean, come on.
System is amazing. Our nervous system is like just like so sacred, and our body too, because the body carries all the imprints.
Wow.
But Drew, I do have to tell you, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
The change, the transformation that you've done in the last year that I've been seeing you is amazing. It's beautiful, And to me, it's very healing to me to watch that, which is the reason that I love doing it. Is I heal when my clients heal.
Well, I'm very grateful for both of you because
Like we always say, if we could have taken a picture before and after,
Yeah.
and
it's funny because I don't see it. You
yeah.
know?
But I'm sure everybody else
What is it on your daily lives is here, right? On your
Oh, with my ability to manage
your
certain.
relationships, on your work.
Well, no, it's
That's where you see the change anyway.
yeah,
Your daily life. Little things here and there that you feel like, wow, look what I did.
it's true.
Like in my past, Drew would be like completely different,
Oh my God,
right? So for me also, I feel very honored that to be
thank you.
part of it and witness that.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, the center has been transformative. I'm very grateful for you two, creating it, and also the relationships that I've made as a result of it. I mean, these are people from all walks of life. We've got a heart surgeon, and we have a firefighter, and we have
All sorts of
a chef, and like, so
a doctor.
yeah. So there's all these different characters, so to speak, and it's really interesting because regardless of how different every single individual person's life may be, their experiences, their past, where they came from, all of us are on the same journey. We all go through the same thing. We all experience the victim triangle, and we're all in search of healing.
Yes, and that's the beauty of group work. Okay, we live in community. You don't live in an island alone by yourself.
Exactly.
And so you're going to have to, you do come into contact daily with people. And that's the beauty of doing group work.
Yes.
And to understand that we all have the same issues. We all, have shame and we all have fears. And so that's the beauty of doing group work. And you hold each other and you make beautiful lifelong friendships, which is such a sweet.
Yeah, we invite you all that are listening to participate, and sometimes it can be a little fearful, like oh my God, but group to be vulnerable in front of people that you've never been. But it's the center, the Tapestry of the Heart Center, is such an amazing environment and so safe and trustworthy. And you will see how beautiful it is just to start doing the work. And if you want to go deeper, the retreat, I think so. Just a little bit to talk about the Awakening of the Heart.
Yeah.
The new format we're doing, it's a 7 months program, which is a weekend per month, and we stay there in retreat from Friday to Sunday, and every weekend is a theme, and the group goes together, and it's amazing. Well,
Yes.
And in order to get there, that's the one you have to do letting go.
letting go
So you
weekend.
need to go to letting go first.
Yes.
Once you've gone through the letting go weekend, now you qualify to be able to
To register for
the Awakening.
do Awakening of the
Yeah,
Heart.
and it's a small group, so like if you're willing to do, come.
Yeah.
This-
And Awakening of the Heart is amazing. And this isn't just for women.
No.
I think a lot of people, because there's so many like
Yeah, so many men.
masculine.
Yes, they have this, like they can cry or show emotions.
Yeah.
Like this is weak being like that, and it's
Lately, we're getting a lot of men, and I welcome it.
Well, there's a difference between, feeling your emotions and suppressing them and acting
Yes.
out of emotion, because a lot of men are acting out of anger. A lot of men are acting, they're persecuting,
Yes.
or they're victimizing,
Yeah.
or they're even rescuing, and they're stuck in this triangle. And for me, I see men go through this all the time. And more importantly, and this is a whole nother episode, and I touch on this a lot, is a lot of men feel weak, sad, unfulfilled, and broken because they're not chasing their purpose,
Exactly.
right? But the problem that I realized was, how are you going to even know your purpose if you don't know who you are? If you don't know yourself?
And also the default mechanism of dealing with the sadness, with the fear, with the shame is the anger,
Right.
for most of the men, because they don't know exactly how to even feel
Wow.
sadness or even cry, so they just go to anger right away.
Right.
Yeah.
So you might not even feeling anger on that moment, but that's how the shortcut is like, I'm gonna get angry because that's what I know.
My mom used to say something to my dad all the time, and she used to say, Gene, you have a toolbox. And she's like, and there's different projects that you need to do. One of them requires a screw, one of them requires tweezers, but you always reach for the hammer. She's like, how do you always reach for the hammer? Is the anger. Let's reach in our toolbox of emotions, and you bring up the hammer for every problem.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that toolbox, because that's what we do at the center.
Yeah.
We give you tools to be able to navigate life in an easier, more fulfilling, and more peaceful way.
Yeah. By bringing awareness to them and then teaching people how to use them.
Exactly.
So it's like, we all have a toolbox, and I might have a flathead screwdriver in here, but I've never used it. I don't even know what it is because I'm used to grabbing the hammer.
You're
Exactly.
scared to touch it.
Yeah. I don't even want to. I don't even want to go there.
Leave it there.
And some people don't even touch the hammer because they just don't want to feel anything.
Exactly.
I mean, life brings, some problems and ups and downs. And you have tools and resources to deal and navigate in a healthier way. Why not?
Yeah.
Why always it doesn't have to be painful all the time. Now, even healing, transformation can be so gentle and so beautiful.
And that's
So then you don't have to get if you don't do anything, life will give you I'm gonna hit you.
And
Then you
that's the
either
best
wake up or you'll go back to your survival mode, the zombie mode.
Well, a lot of people are just allowing life to take them like a feather through the wind.
Exactly.
You know.
And why not give yourself the gift of healing, of being a best version of yourself, a better version of yourself? Why not?
So that you could take control, but not have the need for control.
Not the cool.
You don't
take charge. You're
take charge.
You're
Charge is
responsible for your life.
I tell them, either you learn to take charge or those little kids inside you are going to take charge. And I don't know about you, but I don't want my 3-year-old out there throwing tantrums.
Yeah, that's true.
Like we always say in the center, instead of making a left, make a right.
Yeah.
Turn right, see what happens.
Yeah.
It might be risky in the beginning, might be a little, but it's worth it.
Yep.
You are worth it. We are worth it. That's why we're here to learn.
I agree.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I am very grateful for you. I appreciate you coming. I am, honest when I say that this would not have happened had it not been for the healing that we've done at the center, giving me the confidence to be able to even do this. And, I had the provision, but I was kind of squandering it, right? And so the ability to redirect that into a more impactful way has been everything. So I'm grateful for, your impact in my life. And I'm very grateful that you guys are both in your purpose and you're helping other people.
Yes.
And a part of your life mission. So before we end, I'd love for you to tell people where they could find you.
Okay.
If you want to share, whether it be your personal Instagram or the Instagram for the center, and then also any other website, let people know where they can register for Letting Go Weekend.
Yeah. So I mentioned it before, which was at tapestryoftheheart.com.
Okay.
And there you can register for Letting Go Weekend. And if you want to see us privately in the office, my office is in Miami Lakes. Monica's office is in Coral Gables. You can also set an appointment through the website.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Not with me, not really, but we can maybe put the information because it's my cell phone and it says no appointments there because tend to get very booked. But we can maybe put the information there.
Yeah.
But definitely tapestryoftheheart.com and Instagram or Facebook or even the website carries all the information and the registrations form for
Awesome.
Letting Go Weekend.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Drew, for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you again for tuning in to Planted Moves. It's been a pleasure having you. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this episode. We've enjoyed having you. Please tune into the next one. And if you have not yet done so, please like, subscribe, share this with a friend if you think it could be impactful for them on their journey. And we'll see you on the next one.